Gonna, yeah.
Why women are closer to enlightenment? Are the obstacles to enlightenment the same for a man as for a woman? Yes, but the emphasis is different. Generally speaking, it is easier for a woman to feel and be in her body, so she is naturally closer to being and potentially closer to enlightenment than a man. This is why many ancient cultures instinctively chose female figures or analogies to represent or describe the formless and transcendental reality. It was often seen as a womb that gives birth to everything in creation and sustains and nourishes it during its life as form. In the Tao Te Ching, one of the most ancient and profound books ever written, the Tao, which could be translated as being, is described as infinite, eternally present, the mother of the universe. Naturally, women are closer to it than men since they virtually embody the unmanifested. What is more, all creatures and all things must eventually return to the source. All things vanish into the Tao, it alone endures. Since the source is seen as female, this is represented as the light and dark sides of archetypal feminine in psychology and mythology. The goddess or divine mother has two aspects. She gives life and she takes life. When the mind took over and humans lost touch with the reality of their divine essence, they started to think of God as male figures. Society became male dominated, and the female was made subordinate to the male. I am not suggesting a return to earlier female representations of the divine. Some people now use the term goddesses instead of God. They are redressing a balance between male and female that was lost a long time ago, and that is good. But it is still a representation and a concept, perhaps temporarily useful, just as a map or a signpost is temporarily useful, but more a hindrance than a help when you are ready to realize the reality beyond all concepts and images. What does remain true, however, is that the energy frequency of the mind appears to be essentially male. The mind resists, fights for control, uses, manipulates, attacks, tries to grasp and possess, and so on. This is why the traditional God is a patriarchal, controlling authority figure, and often angry men who you should live in fear of, as the Old Testament suggests. This God is a projection of the human mind. To go beyond the mind and reconnect with the deeper reality of being, very different qualities are needed: surrender, non judgment, and openness that allows life to be instead of resisting it, the capacity to hold all things in the loving embrace of your knowing. All these qualifies are much more closely related to the female principle, whereas mind energy is hard and rigid. Being energy is soft and yielding and yet infinitely more powerful than mind. The mind runs our civilization, whereas being is in charge of all life on our planet and beyond. Being is the very intelligence whose visible manifestation is the physical universe. Although women are potentially closer to it, men can also access it within themselves. At this time, the vast majority of men as well as women are still in the grip of the mind, identified with the thinker and the pain body. This, of course, is what prevents enlightenment and the flowering of love. As a general rule, the major obstacle for men tends to be the thinking mind, and the major obstacle for women, the pain body. Although, in certain individual cases, the opposite may be true, and in others, the two factors may be equal. So it is, it's an equal thing whether it's between a man and a woman. If you're on your journey of spiritual enlightenment, the whole issue is how to work with the mind and how to work with the pain body. So, I mean, personally, I don't see a difference, but yes, if you go by the logical sense, females are the one who have been into, giving life and nurturance. So that is the predominant quality which is there only in females. I mean, they're the one who can, create. They're the one who can give the nurturance in the early ages. So definitely their association and their connect when it comes to love is much, much more than men because of their dominance. I would not like to use the word dominant because of their basic act of co-creation as well as nurturance. But very interesting, for a long time, even Lord Buddha, Siddhartha, did not take females as his disciples. And in Buddhism, there was a very staunch no for females, and they always felt that females cannot, uh, be enlightened. ये बुद्धिज्म में भी था, ये जैनिज्म में भी था. So Jainism में, I mean, it was there in one of Osho's books I read. So they have these Tirunthakaras. Jainism में ना 24 तीर्थंकरा आए हैं आज तक. So उसमें जो 22nd तीर्थंकरा था, that person was a female in reality. But किसी भी जैन बुक्स के रिकॉर्ड में उसका नेम चेंज करके they made it to a male name just so that it goes with their philosophy that females are, not worth for enlightenment. So it has been quite a political issue as well. But seriously, it is the way you can handle your mind and the way you can handle your pain body and your disassociation with your mind, that you are not your mind, and your disassociation with your body, that this is not your body. These are just, just a uniform on this school of earth. Definitely that's the key. Yeah, Supriya.
Yeah, but the being doesn't have a gender, right? The being, the soul, the consciousness doesn't have a gender. It's how it expresses itself. It chooses to express itself as a male in a certain life, and it chooses to manifest as a female.
I would say maybe, because a lot of people refer as Mother Earth, and कहीं ना कहीं बड़े references हैं, genders के references आते हैं. But then again, if there is a gender reference, that means there is some sort of a judgment and labeling happening. So if you have to get beyond the judgment and the labeling, then yes, we are not really bothered about the gender.
But isn't it true that being has no gender? The being.
I have not read it as such, but there's a lot of debate. See, because it's said, you in a lot of your incarnations, you are male as well as a female.
Exactly, that's what.
So that is from where it is coming. It's not that you are a male all the time and you're a female all the time. It's different lifetimes, you have different genders. So once you are there connected with the source, it has no gender as such per se, you can say, But yes, if you're talking about a gender, then it's coming from some kind of a judgment or label. So definitely we need to
Or
look at
is
it
it
from
the
that angle.
yin, is it the yin and yang? Because every being, every soul,
Yin
every
and yang is
soul that
again the female and the
female and the
male
male,
energy. No?
right? So even a male has that yin and yang, even and a female also has the yin and yang. It's just that in a female, the yin may be powerful and the yang
It can be
maybe
the other way. It can be that in a male, the feminine power is more. That's why you have those people who behave, men behaving more like women. So it's the
exactly. Then
female
that's
energy which
how
is more.
the
Yeah.
transgender and the
वो mix
homosexuality.
होता है.
हाँ.
वो mix होता है. So rather than getting into the fact that being has a
Hmm.
gender or no gender, we should not, there is some kind of a judgment or labeling. We need to just work with the mind. Dissolving the collective female pain body. Why is the pain body more of an obstacle for women? The pain body usually has a collective as well as a personal aspect. The personal aspect is the accumulated residue of emotional pain suffered in one's own past. The collective one is the pain accumulated in the collective human psyche over thousands of years through disease, torture, war, murder, cruelty, madness, and so on. Everyone's personal pain body also partakes of this collective pain body. There are different strands in the collective pain body. For example, certain races or countries in which extreme forms of strife and violence occur have a heavier collective pain body than others. Anyone with a strong pain body and not enough consciousness to disidentify from it will not only continuously or periodically be forced to relive their emotional pain, but may also easily become either the perpetrator or the victim of violence, depending on whether the pain body is predominantly active or passive. On the other hand, they may also be potentially closer to enlightenment. This potential isn't necessarily realized, of course, but if you are trapped in a nightmare, you will probably be more strongly motivated to awaken than someone who is just caught up in the ups and downs of an ordinary dream. Apart from her personal pain body, every woman has her share in what could be described as the collective female pain body, unless she is fully conscious. This consists of accumulated pain suffered by women partly through male subjugation of the female, through slavery, exploitation, rape, childbirth, child loss, and so on over thousands of years. The emotional or physical pain that for many women precedes and coincides with the menstrual flow is the pain body in its collective aspect that awakens from its dormancy at that time, although it can be triggered at other times too. It restricts the free flow of life energy through the body, of which menstruation is a physical expression. Let's dwell on this for a moment and see how it can become an opportunity for enlightenment. Often, a woman is taken by the pain body at that time. It has an extremely powerful, energetic charge that can easily pull you into unconscious identification with it. You are then actively possessed by an energy field that occupies your inner space and pretends to be you, but of course is not you at all. It speaks through you, acts through you, thinks through you. It will create negative situations in your life so that it can feed on the energy. It wants more pain in whatever form. I have described this process already. It can be vicious and destructive. It is pure pain, past pain, and it is not you. The number of women who are now approaching the fully conscious state already exceeds that of men and will be growing even faster in the years to come. Men may catch up with them in the end, but for some considerable time, there will be a gap between the consciousness of men and that of women. Women are regaining the function that is their birthright and therefore comes to them more naturally than it does to men, to be a bridge between the manifested world and the unmanifested, between physicality and spirit. Your main task as a woman now is to transmute the pain body so that it no longer comes between you and your true self, the essence of who you are. Of course, you have to deal with the other obstacle of enlightenment, which is the thinking mind, but the intense presence you generate when dealing with the pain body will also free you from the identification with the mind. The first thing to remember is this: as long as you make an identity for yourself out of the pain, you cannot become free of it. As long as part of your sense of self is invested in your emotional pain, you will unconsciously resist or sabotage every attempt that you make to heal that pain. Why? Quite simply because you want to keep yourself intact and the pain has become an essential part of you. This is an unconscious process, and the only way to overcome it is to make it conscious. To suddenly see that you are or have been attached to your pain can be quite a shocking realization. The moment you realize this, you have broken the attachment. The pain body is an energy field, almost like an entity that has been temporarily lodged in your inner space. It is the it is life energy that has become trapped, energy that is no longer flowing. Of course, the pain body is there because of certain things that happened in the past. It's the living past in you, and if you identify with it, you identify with the past. A victim identity is the belief that the past is more powerful than the present, which is the opposite of the truth. It is the belief that other people and what they did to you are responsible for who you are now, for your emotional pain or your inability to be your true self. The truth is that the only power there is contained within this moment. It is the power of your presence. Once you know that, you also realize that you are responsible for your inner space now. Nobody else is. And the past cannot prevail against the power of now. So, yeah, it's a strong link with the menstruation cycle of the females, because generally in those during the menstruation cycle, there is a certain aspect which is of which gets triggered of the pain body. But since now they need to work more with the pain body, because that this is a constant reminder which is going to come to them every month. But हमारा जो concept है that this is not my mind and this is not my body. So that means all the discomfort, all that is going on during that time is of the body, not of you. So your disassociation with yourself and this body, which is nothing but just a uniform. And in case there has been any kind of violence with the pain body, you cannot be stuck in the past with those traumas. and you need to be in the now. So, when we were talking about, in other words, that whenever there is a trauma, it actually gets stored in some body part because it needs something if it is not removed from the body. So if we can work on completing the trauma cycle, that will be very helpful. Or if you can identify where the trauma is stored, you need to work with it. Because जब तक हम उसको न्यूट्रलाइज नहीं करेंगे, कहीं ना कहीं वो बार बार एक पैटर्न बना के आएगा. So you need to, because see, this is now going to happen to you nearly every month. So it's a constant reminder for you to work with the concept of a pain body, because this reminder is going to come to females every month. So the identification of yourself and your body as two different aspects goes through a test every month for females. So identification prevents you from dealing with the pain body. Since women who are already conscious enough to have relinquished their victim identity on the personal level are still holding on to a collective victim identity. What men did to women. They are right and they are also wrong. They are right in as much as the collective female pain body is in large part due to male violence inflicted on women and repression of the female principle through the planet over millennia. They are wrong if they derive a sense of self from this fact and thereby keep themselves imprisoned in a collective victim identity. If a woman is still holding on to anger, resentment, or condemnation, she is holding on to her pain body. This may give her a comforting sense of identity, of solidarity with other women, but it is keeping her in bondage to the past and blocking full access to her essence and true power. If women exclude themselves from men, that fosters a sense of separation and therefore a strengthening of the ego. And the stronger the ego, the more distant you are from your true nature. So do not use the pain body to give you an identity. Use it for enlightenment instead. Transmute it into consciousness. One of the best things for this is during menses. I believe that in the years to come, many women will enter the fully conscious state during that time. Usually, it is a time of unconsciousness for many women as they are taken over by the collective female pain body. Once you have reached a certain level of consciousness, however, you can reverse this. So instead of being unconscious, you become more conscious. I have described the basic process already, but let me take you through it again, this time with special reference to the collective female pain body. When you know that the menstrual flow is approaching, before you feel the first signs of what is commonly called premenstrual tension, the awakening of the collective female body, become very alert and inhibit your body as fully as possible. When the first sign appears, you need to be alert enough to catch it before it takes you over. For example, the first sign may be a sudden strong irritation or a flash of anger, or it may be a purely physical symptom. Whatever it is, catch it before it can take over your thinking or behavior. This simply means putting the spotlight of your attention on it. If it is an emotion, feel the strong energy charge behind it. Know that it is the pain body. At the same time, be the knowing, that is to say, be aware of your conscious presence and feel its power. Any emotion that you take your presence into will quickly subside and become transmuted. If it is a purely physical symptom, the attention that you give it will prevent it from turning into an emotion or a thought. Then continue to be alert and wait for the next sign of the pain body. When it appears, catch it again in the same way as before. Later, when the pain body has fully awakened from its dormant state, you may experience considerable turbulence in your inner space for a while, perhaps for several days. Whatever form this takes, stay present. Give it your complete attention. Watch the turbulence inside you. Know it is there. Hold the knowing and be the knowing. Remember, do not let the pain body use your mind and take over your thinking. Watch it, feel its energy directly inside your body. As you know, full attention means full acceptance. Through sustained attention and thus acceptance, there comes transmutation. The pain body becomes transformed into radiant consciousness, just as a piece of wood, when placed in or near a fire, itself is transformed into fire. Mensuration will then become not only a joyful and fulfilling expression of your womanhood, but also a sacred time of transmutation. When you give birth to a new consciousness, your true nature then shines forth, both in its female aspect as the goddess and its transcendental aspect as the divine being, that you're beyond male and female duality. If your male partner is conscious enough, he can help you with the practice I have just described by holding the frequency of intense presence, particularly at that time. If he stays present whenever you fall back into the unconscious identification with the pain body, which can and will happen at first, you will be able to quickly rejoin him in that state. This means that whatever the pain body temporarily takes over, whether during menses or at other times, your partner will not mistake it for who you are. Even if the pain body attacks him, as it probably will, he will not react to it as if it were you. Withdraw or put some kind of defense. He will hold the space of intense power. Nothing else is needed for transformation. At other times, you will be able to do the same for him or help him reclaim consciousness from the mind by drawing his attention into the here and now whenever he becomes identified with this thinking. In this way, a permanent energy field of pure and high frequency will arise between you. No illusion, no pain, no conflict. Nothing that is not you and nothing that is not love can survive in it. This represents the fulfillment of the divine transpersonal purpose of your relationship. It becomes a vortex of consciousness that will draw in many other ways. So there's a very detailed description of how, females in particular need to do and need to pay their attention to, especially during the menstruation cycle, and working with their pain body accordingly, and not letting that pain body take over and rope in the mind and get yourself out of that present moment. So you need to work with your pain body and accept, by giving it your attention, that yes, it is there, it's part of this body, this uniform. So whatever is part of this uniform, I accept it.
You didn't give iPad to Sunny.
I did.
You gave your iPad to me.
Give up the relationship with yourself. When one is fully conscious, would one still have a need for a relationship? Would a man still feel drawn to a woman? Would a woman still feel incomplete without a man? Enlightened or not, you are either a man or a woman. So, on the level of your form identity, you are not complete. You are one half of the whole. This incompleteness is felt as male female attraction, the pull toward the opposite energy polarity, no matter how conscious you are. But in that state of inner connectedness, you feel this pull somewhere on the surface or periphery of your life. Anything that happens to you in that state feels somewhat like that. The whole world seems like waves or ripples on the surface or a vast and deep ocean. You are that ocean, and of course, you are also a ripple, but a ripple that has realized its true identity as the ocean, and compared to that vastness and depth, the world of waves and ripples is not all that important. This does not mean that you don't relate deeply to other people or to your partner. In fact, you can relate deeply only if you are conscious of being. Coming from being, you are able to focus beyond the veil of form. In being, male and female are one. Your form may continue to have certain needs, but being has none. It is already complete and whole. If those needs are met, that is beautiful. But whether or not they are met makes no difference to your deep inner state. So it is perfectly possible for an enlightened person, if the need for the male or female polarity is not met, to feel a sense of lack or incompleteness on the outer level of his or her being, yet at the same time be totally complete, fulfilled, and at peace within. In the quest for enlightenment, is being gay a help or a hindrance, or does it make any difference? As per your approach, adulthood, uncertainty about your sexuality, followed by the realization that you are different from others, may force you to disidentify from socially conditioned patterns of thought and behavior. This will automatically raise your level of consciousness above that of the unconscious majority, whose members unquestionably take on board all inherited patterns. In that respect, being gay can be a help. Being an outsider to some extent, someone who does not fit in with others or is rejected by them for whatever reason, makes life difficult, but it also places you at an advantage as far as enlightenment is concerned. It takes you out of the unconsciousness almost by force. On the other hand, if you then develop a sense of identity based on your gayness, you have escaped one trap only to fall into another. You will play roles and games dictated by a mental image you have of yourself as gay. You will become unconscious. You will become unreal. Underneath your ego mask, you will become very unhappy. If this happens to you, being gay will have become a hindrance. But you always get another chance. Of course, acute unhappiness can be a great awakener. Is it not true that you need to have a good relationship with yourself and love yourself before you can have a fulfilling relationship with another person? If you cannot be at ease with yourself when you're alone, you will seek a relationship to cover up your unease. You can be sure that the unease will then reappear in some other form within the relationship, and you will probably hold your partner responsible for it. All you really need to do is accept this moment fully. I repeat this line. All you really need to do is accept this moment fully. You are then at ease in the here and now and at ease with yourself. But do you need to have a relationship with yourself at all? Why can't you just be yourself? When you have a relationship with yourself, you have split yourself into two: I and myself, subject and object. That mind created duality is the root cause of unnecessary complexity of all problems and conflict in your life. In the state of enlightenment, you are yourself. You and yourself merge into one. You do not judge yourself. You do not feel sorry for yourself. You are not proud of yourself. You do not love yourself. You do not hate yourself, and so on. The split caused by self reflective consciousness is healed, its curse removed. There is no self that you need to protect, defend, or feed anymore. When you are enlightened, there is one relationship that you no longer have, the relationship with yourself. Once you have given that up, all your other relationships will be love relationships. So, in inner gist is basically accepting yourself as you are, being in the moment, and accepting all the things as they are without the jack. So, if you're not judging yourself, you're not expecting too much out of yourself, you're not comparing yourself, and you're not criticizing yourself, that means you are in a state of total acceptance of who you are. And सबसे पहले and the most important is to first accept yourself without any judgment, because the moment you are able to accept yourself first, then you create the room, then you create that space to accept others as they are. Because अगर आप अपने आप को ही accept नहीं कर पाओगे और अपने आप को ही सारा टाइम जज और क्रिटिसाइज करते रहोगे, it's a very difficult position and a place to be, that you will be able to, not judge others or not accept others as they are. So true acceptance, true enlightenment, firstly you need to accept yourself as you are. Mote, patle, lambe, chote, anything. Do not judge, do not label yourself. Don't expect anything when it comes to accepting yourself. So, the kind of person you are, the kind of person you see in the mirror, just accept that person as he or she is. वहीं से फिर हम, we can probably work with others.